Awesome. All right. Well, again, thanks everybody for coming. We're going to jump into the track bulk edit feature. So you should see my screen. I'm in a dashboard of one of our staging environments. And we just rolled out this really cool feature that if you go into tracks, so go down in your catalog, drop down to the tracks area. Once you click in here, you're going to see everything kind of normal. We've got, if you haven't seen this before, if you're new to an environment, you'll see this little explainer of what each section is, and you can read it, you can dismiss it, you can leave it there, whatever you'd like, but it gives you a little explainer of what you're looking at in each section of the catalog. Now, I'm sure all of you are familiar with catalog tracks. This is your typical view. Nothing too fancy. We do have one little nice extra thing that has been dropped here, a little new track toggle. So instead of having to go into create new, if you're already looking in tracks, you can go and immediately create a new track. But what we're going to do is we're going to start with this find ISRCs, and then we'll go down to the batch edit feature here. So this new little section that says find ISRCs is a awesome tool that we've started to add. So right now it will say, hey, find ISRCs in your catalog by entering a list of comma or white space separated ISRCs. So previously you could search in the catalog search up here one ISRC, not multiple. Now this gives you the option to search 1, 3, 5, 100 ISRCs. And actually get those fed back to you. So I grabbed a list of 4, and let me go ahead and paste these in here.
Christian, quick question. So if I cut and pasted a list out of an Excel sheet and paste it in here, will that work?
Yes, it will. That's exactly what the feature is for.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't have to add the commas or anything.
Nope. And that's why it says right here, comma or white space separated. So in this case, you could see, I have them by lines, right? So we have one on each line. I could just go ahead and go like this and have a little white space in between. It's not going to matter. Just as long as they're literally not touching, then you should be good to go. But here we have some white space separated. So this would be similar if you would drop them in via a Excel sheet, you would see it kind of in this arrangement. So what we're going to do is we dropped our 4 ISRCs in here. We're going to go into find matches. So when we click this, it'll look in the results and it'll show us either any that were matched or any that were not matched. So here we have 4 ISRCs and 5 tracks. We have 0 that were not found. So we have 2 options here. If you were just, let's say, looking for these ISRCs and you were attempting to just find them and maybe pull a report on them, this is a great option because now you can go into the view matched catalog search results view. And now I'm going to see all 5 tracks that are associated with these ISRCs. And I can go ahead and I can do my typical, select all. Oh, my apologies. I can select all. I can create a report from these, specifically the search and filters of the selection. I can add filters through those ISRCs. I can export them, in a CSV or an Excel, just like we normally would. But I can pull a report right there, or create a report within OpenPlay. So this is a nice option to be able to say, hey, I need information on these 5, 10, 20 tracks, 50 tracks, so whatever you're looking for. And now you can get just that specific view without having to try and comb through specific ISRCs and, click, oh, I want, this one. I don't want this one, but I want this one. I don't want this one, but I want this one. That's what you would have had to do beforehand to create a specific export of ISRCs. Now we can search those specific ones and go ahead and pull that right now. So that's the first part of this feature. The second part of the feature is this batch edit match results, which is why you came here this morning. So let's get to it. This is an awesome feature. We have rolled this out in all environments. If you are a UMG user, it is a little bit different. There's a second option, and it is somewhat defined by your user status. So, if you are a platform user or you are a admin, I believe you have access to this. Otherwise, you may not, just so you know. Everyone else, this is open to whoever would like to utilize it. But in this case, we have a bunch of different core metadata fields for our tracks. All of these you'll see, it's what you'll normally see on a track level, right? We've got our track type, our genre, our duration, metadata language, audio language, so on and so forth, right? This is that first section that you see when you jump into a track. Now, what this allows you to do is this allows me to take these 4 tracks or 5 tracks in this case, and I can say, hey, I know that all of these are maybe by the same artist, and they're all this, part of 1 or 2 or 5 releases, but I need to update some of this metadata because I just brought it in kind of as a shell, and I need to add this stuff, or maybe something has changed. So what I can do is I can say, hey, I would like to update the genre, and I am going to say, instead of whatever they used to be, all of them need to be blues. And for my subgenre, they need to be Louisiana blues. And now my duration, I'm not going to mess with that right now, but my metadata language, I need to change it from, whatever it was to English, and double check that my audio language is also English. And maybe my primary recording location, you see where I'm going, right? So all of these things, you will select this little checkbox right here, and it'll show in blue, and then you can add that. Otherwise, you're going to see every line grayed out. And this is just so that you know, hey, I'm not going to be editing any of this, and unless I actually check this, this isn't going to be affected. Now, something to keep in mind, just like we have on the releases, right? I'm gonna open this in just a different tab and show this visually, because I am a visual learner and that helps me. So hopefully 1 or 2 of you are similar. That is locked. Let me jump into this one. So I'm going to jump into edit. When you're in a release, we have the option to select 1 or multiple tracks, right? And we go into actions and we can edit. So this is a similar feature. This would be multiple ISRCs, in this case 5 similarly, but this is just for 1 album, right? So we're going to see something very similar here, where we can batch edit these 5 tracks that are associated with this UPC. There's going to be some extra fields here, right? We've got some of the video information like dubbed language, subtitled language, video type and category. So some of this is going to be specific to a release. But when we go back over here, we'll see that reflected. Now, the reason why I bring this up is that anytime that you batch edit tracks that are associated to a release, you need to keep in mind that when you do this, when you change anything, let's say on these 5 tracks for the entire album, if those tracks have other associations, so if they are associated with other UPCs or releases, that will also affect those other releases. So always keep in mind, when you are changing something, whether it be on the batch edit for a release or the batch edit across multiple tracks using this new feature, you are not only affecting the singular ISRC, you're affecting that ISRC in relation to all of the releases that it is associated with. So use this with that in mind. Now, that doesn't mean that this feature is like dangerous or it's going to change everything and it's going to mess everything up. No, you can obviously update metadata. If there's missing fields that you know that you have, you can do a mass update and say, hey, these 40, 50, whatever ISRCs, I need to add audio language, primary recording location, metadata language, and metadata language country. Maybe you need those 4 fields, and that's all that you need to update. You can do that with this and not run the risk of having any bad implications for your metadata. Or you can go through and you can say, hey, I just brought in, maybe via the template, I brought in the shell of these tracks, basically like the absolute bare minimum. I brought the ISRC, the track title, and maybe one other thing. And now I need to update these 50, and I'm going to do it using the batch edit feature. This is another case that you can use it for. Or maybe you bought a catalog, and you need to update some of that information that you just brought in. Again, another great use. Just keep in mind, every time you change anything on all 5 of these tracks, all of the associations that they have, and you can go back, let's look in view and catalog. You can see they have each of them, except for one, have multiple UPC associations. So all of those UPCs are going to be affected. Nothing will change on the release level, obviously, but that track will change in its association to the release. So just keep that in mind. But incredibly powerful tool, incredibly useful. What you'll see is when you set these changes, and let's just go ahead and add these really quick. Let's go back. We'll go blues, English. We'll add our subgenre. I messed it up by going off the screen, and we'll just do United States. Okay, so we're going to preview changes. So what will happen is it will give us kind of a validation point to say, hey, are you sure that these 5 records, you want these specific changes in the metadata to happen? Once you confirm changes, then it will make those changes. Until then, it just gives you this view. So I'm not going to make these changes because I don't know where these live or where they need to live. But that being said, incredibly powerful tool, incredibly useful. And I want to show you one other thing. There is this batch edit dropdown where you can also select specific tracks, and you can say, hey, I want to batch edit the selected results or all results. So if for some reason, I would not recommend this personally, you want to change every some metadata field in every single track in your entire catalog. Maybe it's 237 tracks and it's not a big deal, or maybe it's 10,000 tracks or 20,000 tracks or 50,000 tracks. You can do that. I don't know that I'd recommend it, but you can. So we give you the option. But again, similarly to finding those ISRCs, you can select those. I've got those top 4. I can use selected results, and then I can go ahead and go straight into my batch editing feature right there. So incredibly cool tool, and very, very powerful. Before we move on, I want to open it up to any questions. Anybody that has any thoughts on it, let me know, and if not, we will continue right along. And yes, Victor, you can now edit subgenre as well, but a genre has to be chosen within that batch edit. So you have to first start by oops, sorry, I'm going to the wrong spot. If I choose this first track, right, I'm going to batch edit the selected results. I can't choose subgenre until a genre is selected. So if I know, an album is blues, I'm just going to use blues again because it's right there. Then I can select subgenre, because each subgenre is a subset of each genre, right? And that's the way it's set up in settings. So you have to have a genre selected to be able to select a subgenre. And this has to be set up in your settings for each individual tenant. So we're going to go into the manage area. Just as a quick note, here's the manage area up here. If you have not seen it, if you are an admin, you should be very, very familiar with the manage area. But when I go down into genres, not every environment has this, but most do. I will see my active genres. I can look at blues, and I can go and see here is the blues genre, and here are the subgenres that are accepted under it. And I can add new subgenres. I can also change the status from this genre from active to inactive, so it will not show for releases. But that is how you would find your subgenres if they are in your environment. If they're not, you can add them. In the cases of some distributors, subgenres are not accepted in the payload, so it won't always go downstream, but at the very least you can capture that in OpenPlay. Cool. Any other questions on batch editing for tracks? Got one note after this. Yeah, you can absolutely, Mustafa, you can absolutely search for multiple ISRCs. If you go into the Find ISRCs area right here, you can go ahead and search all of those. And I showed this a little bit earlier, you might have missed it. I've got 4 right here. You can either comma separate them or you can white space separate them like this. You can find matches and it will give you a view of all the ISRCs and tracks that have been matched or not matched, and then you can either view those in catalog or batch edit those. Similarly, like I just showed a second ago, you can select specific ISRCs or tracks, and you can batch edit them, choose to batch edit those specific ones in the selected results. Great question, Mustafa. Thank you for that segue. That is a perfect segue. For UPCs, works, and other catalog views, we will be rolling out a similar feature that to the track batch edit. It is not finished yet, but we will have similar for UPCs for releases and similar for works in the future. So this is kind of the first kind of step into that series of work, but it will be coming in the new year. So we will let you know when that rolls out, and it'll probably be part of a future webinar. So stay tuned.